Dr. Elizabeth Hafer wants you to get your head on straight. In a world gone sideways, having balance and integrity in all areas of life leads to having confidence that breeds clarity. Clarity is essential to living an authentic life, and all the information shared on the Get Your Head On Straight podcast is designed to inspire you to live your life fulfilled. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Get Your Head On Straight with Dr. Elizabeth Hafer. My guest today is a really incredible guest who I've been pursuing for probably a couple of months and begging her to come on my show because her story is outstanding. So I want to introduce to you my friend Jean Fenoglio, and I want to share her story with you. And what is so amazing about this story is that she has had a couple of different surgical procedures that would basically deter her from ever seeing a chiropractor. And when she walked into my office, I actually had no idea what I was getting myself into. And once I saw her x-rays, I was not confident, but I was just like, cool, we'll see what happens. And I didn't know for sure if I could help her. So I want to welcome you, Jean, to my show.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Hafer. Nice to be here.
It's so awesome that you're here. And my listeners are going to be in for a treat because we get to hear about a really neat story that has changed your life. And it's changed my life because honestly, it's given me more confidence to know that I can help people who have had surgery. So I want to start just kind of from the beginning, if you will. Give me a little background about who you are, where you're from, what your life was like, and how you got into the predicament of meeting me.
Oh, well, that's a long story.
Right.
No, very active. I've worked for, 40 years, travel a lot, move around a lot, and very healthy, never had any problems at all, knock on wood. And then one night I got up to get a drink of water, and I remember standing in front of the kitchen sink with this glass in my hand, and the next thing I knew, I was on the floor. I guess I passed out, and I woke up and I'm lying on the floor and I tried to get up, and the knives that felt like knives going through my shoulders and neck, I couldn't move. I just laid there for a long time because every time I tried to get up, I'm like, oh my gosh, it hurts. If I move, I don't know what happened to me, but I might really hurt it.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
About 4 years ago, I guess.
So literally you got up to get a glass of water and something happened. You passed out, you fell down, and you had stabbing pain in your neck and in your shoulders and you couldn't move.
Yes.
Okay.
When I moved, it just felt like these knives were going. So I just was lying there. If I didn't move, I was fine. But if I tried to lift myself off the floor, I'm like, oh, I can't do this. But eventually I had to.
Right.
I couldn't just lie on the floor.
Correct. So did you crawl somewhere to get to the phone or? I
finally got up off the floor and went in and laid on the sofa that wasn't too far away.
Okay.
And then I called my children.
So it didn't ever occur to you, maybe call 911, help, I fall and I can't get up?
I can't be that hurt.
Okay. You're like, all I was doing was getting a glass of water.
But then when my children got there and tried to get me off the sofa and they saw what pain I was in, they were like, we're calling an ambulance. And I'm like, well, I could have done that myself, but.
Right.
So when the ambulance came, I guess, in all of what was going on, they didn't at first hear that I blacked out. They just said I fell. And then when I said, yeah, it was really weird because all of a sudden I'm on that floor and I'm already like lying down on this gurney and they're like, well, wait a minute. So you passed out? Well, we've got to make sure. So all of a sudden it's this whole big thing and, another 10 minutes of really checking me out before they'd even move me.
Did they put a brace on your neck?
Oh, yes. They put the big brace on the neck and asked me how long I was out. And I said, I don't think I was out for very long. I just sort of.
Do you remember when you were standing at the kitchen sink to get water? Did you have pain and then you passed out?
I don't recall any pain.
Okay.
I don't. Maybe I did, and that's what happened. All I remember is having a glass of water in my hand.
Interesting.
And I was just on the floor the next thing.
That's really interesting. So after they assess you, what was the next step?
They took me by ambulance to a hospital.
And what happened at the hospital?
They did a bunch of x-rays because they're, at first they're like, well, did you break her neck? And and they put you in that thing so you can't really move your neck. And so they took a bunch of x-rays and they said that my discs in my neck had collapsed. Mm-hmm. this wasn't a big hospital. I was actually at a friend's house when this happened.
Wow.
And so I wasn't in my neighborhood. And so they finally, after 2 days of going back and forth and not knowing what to do with me, I did call my GP in the meantime and said, this is what's happened. And he goes, well, you should get back to Orange County and I've got some great doctors you could go to. And so they finally released me after like 2 days of doing nothing and took me down to Hogan, Newport.
Okay.
Now, my doctor, the one he wanted me to see, was at a big convention. So I had to see the doctor on call. Mm-hmm. But he took x-rays and that's when he said, okay, these are collapsed. You're going to need, I think it was 4, 5, and 5, 6. So it's the vertebrae in your neck. And once I got me so I wasn't in such pain, they said I have to have 2 surgeries. They don't want to do both of them at the same time. 4, 5, and one does the arms and one does something else or something.
Right. So what she's talking about is the nerve roots that exit your spine. They innervate different parts of your body. So 4, 5 is kind of like your shoulder area. And then 5, 6 goes down to your hands.
Oh, so I had both. No wonder I was in pain.
Right. And so a lot of people come in and they have this radiculopathy or this kind of shooting pain coming down their arm. And a lot of times people think it's their wrist or it's their elbow or it's their shoulder. And the truth is, most of the time it's because their neck is having an issue. And so the surgeons will go in and do a decompression or a disc replacement, or they'll fuse you and they'll stabilize that area so that the nerves leaving those vertebra can communicate with your body. Because if you don't have function because of your nerve supply, then things get bad really quick, as you experience.
Yeah. Like in a split second.
So you had, how long from the time you got back to Orange County to the surgery? How many days was that?
Well, I still don't really know why, but he wanted to wait for some reason and he put me on some medicine and we waited like at least 3 weeks.
Wow. And you were still suffering in pain.
And so I was taking different meds to help so it didn't hurt.
Were you taking like an anti-inflammatory and a muscle relaxer and a steroid, things like that?
Steroid. I remember that word.
Right. So usually what happens, at least this is the experience that I've seen people that I know walk through, is they have this thing happen. They go see a medical doctor. They get referred to a specialist. Did you see an orthopedist or did you see a neurosurgeon?
Orthopedic.
Okay. So an orthopedic spine specialist. Yeah. And then they have to kind of go through this, cascade of events where they have to take an x-ray and they see kind of what's up with the bones. And then they put you on medication to, I guess, deflame the soft tissue and the nerves. And so steroids is often what they prescribe. Sometimes they do muscle relaxers too, because the nerves innervate the muscle. It makes everything really tight. And then you just are super uncomfortable. And then they prescribe physical therapy a lot of times. So they'll have you go through and try to work with the physical therapist. And physical therapists are movement practitioners that are very, very brilliant in movement and synergistic understanding of how the body kind of works together. And they work oftentimes under medical doctors because they're not a portal of entry provider, which means that they cannot diagnose conditions, but they are a practitioner that works under the direction of a diagnosis or a treatment plan from the medical doctor. And then after that fails, then they probably go to surgery, right? So he probably wanted to exhaust. And honestly, because of insurance, those are the steps that they have to walk patients through, unless it's like a hard neurological sign. Like if you couldn't hold the glass with your hand, or you couldn't write, or your hand was swelling and there was obvious issue of some sort of vascular compromise, or the muscles were going away, wasting away, atrophy. Those are hard neurological signs, would be immediate surgery. And there's been people that I've had that I've taken care of that I've sent immediately to have emergency neurosurgery. But a lot of times they go through that cascade. So you have, the x-ray, then the drugs, then the PT, and then you have surgery. So is that kind of what you had to walk through?
Yeah. So I'd go, once or twice a week for him to see how things were going. But so, I'm just at home. I can't work. And I'd be sitting there watching TV. And all of a sudden, the pains would just go right down my arms and into my hands. Yep. And they would just cramp up so badly. Right. I would just cry.
Right.
And that was... And you never knew when that was going to happen, but it happened over and over every day, every day.
Goodness, that's awful.
And I'm like, can't I just have the surgery
to
alleviate this?
Right. So after 3 weeks, you did have the surgery.
So then I finally got the first surgery done. And he said he was going to go in, that disc collapse. And so what he has to do is pull them apart and put some sort of a plate or something. So to keep that from
the
rubbing.
Space, right.
The spacer.
Yeah. And that's what's important to understand also is that the vertebra are separated by these discs. And those discs are basically space savers because the vertebra coming together at the joint creates these little openings called intervertebral foramina. And that is the exact place where the nerves live. So when that space gets smaller, that intervertebral foramina or the IVF gets smaller and it pinches your nerves. That's why you were having the things you were having. So literally, I talk about this all the time. Structure dictates your function. And because your structure was changing because the discs were degenerating, the function of your body was changing and you were having pain and all kinds of different things. So there is a time and a place for surgery. And who knows if I met you before you had your surgery, I could have helped at all. Who knows? But the truth is I didn't meet you till after you had that surgery. And then after that surgery, what happened?
They waited about 5 months and they did the second surgery to do that.
And what was the reasoning behind waiting? Why were they saying we shouldn't do this all at one time? Why were they saying, we'll save this problem for now and then we'll do this problem later?
They just said that's just what they recommended.
Okay. Interesting. Well, who knows why? I mean, there's all kinds of speculation, right?
Yes.
But the truth is you ended up with a 5-level fusion. 5 of your vertebra, which we only have 7, unless you have an abnormality and you have an extra one or not an extra one if you only have 6. But generally, most people have 7 cervical vertebra. You're fused at 5 segments. And then fast forward, 4 years. How did you come to learn about Blair Chiropractic and coming to the office where I take care of my patients?
Well, after the first surgery, there's a long, recovery. And maybe that's what it was. They wanted to just make sure that you recovered well before you went through surgery again.
Sure.
So then I had the second one. But out of nowhere, the arms still got these shooting pains. And it would go down to my fingers, or just my fingers would literally cramp. And they would just stay there. And I literally had to pry to open up.
Wow.
They wouldn't just open. And I'm like, I'm still in pain. Now, it's not every day.
Right.
And then I also started getting a lot of leg pains and feet cramps. And I'm like, no, is that another vertebrae?
Right. Do you have to have low back surgery now? So when you were having these symptoms, this is long after you've had surgery. You're not having active treatment with the orthopedist that did your surgery.
No, I did go through a lot of physical therapy for like 2 or 3 months or something to do things. But the pains, like I said, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, maybe not for another 2 weeks. It was not a consistent,
right.
There's no pattern that I could figure out.
Right. So it was intermittent and random, but it was still frustrating because all of a sudden you'd be doing something and your hand would cramp up and then you'd have to peel it apart.
Yes, or the pains. And then the other thing that was happening was I would be just walking down the street and I'd fall. Just fall flat on my face.
Kind of like you fell in the beginning where you didn't have any recollection of why you fell.
No. And I mean, one time I was walking with my girlfriend and we're literally in a crosswalk walking across the street. And the next thing, I'm like halfway through the crosswalk, boom, I'm on the ground. She goes, what'd you do? There wasn't anything there I'm like, there must have been a rock on there or something because
right.
I just collapsed.
Right.
And that happened maybe 5 or 6 times.
And did you have any sense of weakness in your leg?
No.
All of a sudden you were walking, you were just down.
I'm just down. I mean, it happened so fast, all of a sudden you're just down.
Wow.
And so one of my daughters heard about this Blair Institute and that if your axis is
and your atlas
is not in line, then you could be, clumsy and she goes, Mom, it just sounded like you. Exactly. You fall for no reason.
Right.
And she says, I bet that's your problem.
Wow.
And I'm like, no one can help me. Do you know how much iron is in my neck?
Yeah, you have a lot of hardware.
And every once in a while, too, if I would turn my head a certain way all of a sudden it felt like it was going to stay like that.
Wow.
And then I'm thinking, is the hardware moving? And it like crimped or something? So, I mean, I had and that was scary when you moved your neck and you felt this shift.
Right.
And you're like, uh-oh, can I move it back again?
Right. Especially because you're still working and you're an active, grandma and mom and you want to just stay, active in your life. I can't imagine how scary that must be to think that you'll get stuck in a position because of the hardware in your neck. And did your medical doctors have any answers for that?
No.
And what did they say? You're just going to have to live with it?
the way it is, I guess.
And did they give you more medication?
No.
So they just said, sorry, this is what happened.
This is just sort of...
And did the word
it's not as bad as it was.
There's something to that. But did they ever bring up the word chiropractor?
No.
Did you ever think of a chiropractor?
No.
And it wasn't until your daughter, who had heard about the Blair method, said, Mom, this sounds like you. You're clumsy. You fall for no reason. It didn't even occur to them that they could do anything about the hardware in your neck, but...
You're just out of balance. And this whole Atlas thing sounds exactly what you need to get stabilized, to quit falling.
Right. Okay.
I'm getting older. That could be...
You know what? That is the biggest farce. And I hear that every day when I take care of my patients.
No, but if I fall, it could be worse.
Right. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I get that. But
yeah, not just because I'm getting older, but because I am, your bones are getting brittle.
But what I was going to say is that I hear that from people that are quote unquote aging. They say, well, I'm just getting older, so that's why this is happening. Well, if that were true, every person that turned 52 would have the same issue, and we don't, So it's important to understand that just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to lose function.
Correct. But, if you're not quite as
agile.
Stable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like you don't want to fall.
Right. I get that. Especially because the last time you fell, without knowing, you ended up having neurosurgery, right? It's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah, we don't want to do that again.
No, I don't want you to do that again. So fast forward to a little under a year ago. You come into my office, and I adore your daughters, and I get to thankfully take care of them and many people in your family. And they said to me, hey, my mom's got some issues. She's had a couple of neck surgeries. Do you think you could help her? And the optimist in me said, of course I can. And I often, not often, but I think I guess I'm just really confident because the Blair work is awesome. But once I saw your x-ray when you were in the x-ray chair, I got a little scared because I've never seen anybody with a 5-level fusion and that amount of hardware in their neck. And I said, holy smokes, what am I going to do? How am I going to help her? But thankfully, the way that we engineer our corrections, it has nothing to do with your hardware. It has to do with the joints where the bones come together, and hardware isn't there. So I was able to make a correction in your neck, and I was able to set your Atlas and your C3, which is one of the segments that was partially fused with the plates and the screws. So we made that correction, and then I want you to tell me what has happened since that day, because I'm just so proud and so excited for you, because I feel like not only has some of your stuff gotten better, but you're getting your life back. So tell me.
Yes. So the hand cramping just happened maybe a couple more times in the feet and the cramps in the legs. And then all of a sudden one day I'm like, I haven't been cramping at all. And my hands, I'm kidding. I would wake up in the middle of the night with such a leg, Charlie horse, whatever you want to call it. I would just walk in my bedroom for 10 minutes trying to get rid of it.
Wow.
I mean, they would last a long time.
Wow.
A long time. And then after my hands pried open, they would hurt, from being so tense.
Right.
And all of a sudden one day I'm like, I haven't had any cramps. This is great. And then one day I went to the grocery store and I was walking down an aisle and all of a sudden my foot came up from under me like I was but this time I was going backwards. I wasn't falling forward.
Right.
And I'm like, what's going on? And I put my hands out and I balanced myself and I didn't fall.
Wow.
And it turned out, and the people around me are like, oh my gosh, where did that water come from? There was water on the floor.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't see it. And my foot just slipped right in it. But I completely got my balance and I didn't fall.
So in a legitimate circumstance where anybody could have fallen because there was a reason, water on the floor on a slippery tile at the grocery store, you caught yourself.
I was less like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I remember when you came in and you were ecstatic, and I was like, this is such a huge celebration, because you would fall literally walking across the street for no reason, and now you had a legitimate reason to fall and you caught yourself. And that is the power of the Blair upper cervical correction, because it gave your body a sense and space to be able to catch itself. And you have had one upper cervical correction the whole time I've been taking care of you. Obviously, you've come in for follow-ups to make sure that you're holding your adjustment and you've gone through the healing process, but you've had one upper cervical correction and it's held. And in my estimation, you're significantly better than you were when I first met you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no question that you have helped me tremendously, because the pain I was still getting, and out of nowhere, I just was like, oh, why does this keep happening to me?
And you're pretty busy. You travel a lot for work.
Travel for my job. I have 7 grandchildren, 4 children. We have family dinners. And I mean, I can't just be sitting in a chair not being active. That's not me.
Right. So do you feel like you've gotten more vitality to your life?
Oh, absolutely.
That's so neat.
I feel like I can play with the grandkids and I'm not going to fall.
Right. That's good. So what would your advice be to anybody who's searching out Blair upper cervical chiropractic or chiropractic in general? Because you've had surgery and I know people are told don't see a chiropractor. What would your advice be to them and what is your encouragement to them?
Well, my daughters had come to you and this was sort of a very unique, my problem was unique, but this whole Blair Institute is something that I think is unique. And I'm like, well, if it does what you keep telling me, my daughters are. So when I came in and met you and you explained how things went, and I'm like, boy, they were right. That just sounds like if your atlas is off, then that's why I'm so trippy.
Right.
I'm not balanced. But I mean, all growing up, I was very athletic.
Right.
Playing every sport you could. And I never fell. I mean, unless I was sliding somewhere.
Right.
But,
so would your encouragement be, don't be afraid to give it a try?
Don't be afraid to go in and talk to him and be, honest. This is what's happening and give it a try because
it's certainly not going to hurt, right?
It's not. Yeah, it can't get any worse. And it certainly can get a lot better.
That is so awesome.
So you listened. And you told me from the get-go, I'm going to try and help you. I mean, you don't make promises. You just say, I think I can do this for you. Yeah. And you told me that when you first do the thing, where your adjustments, they could slip or they could stay, So, I mean, you gave me everything but it was wonderful. And I'm so thankful my daughter recommended you. Aww. And that I did feel very comfortable with you.
That's great.
And that I look forward to coming in going, oh, good, because then I know this is all going to stay good.
Yes. And it's so neat every time you do come in that we check you and you're holding and that much more life have you gotten back. So I remember having a cautious optimism with you, but being very realistic about there's no way for me to tell you exactly how you're going to heal or what's going to happen. But this is what I think could go right based on your structure being intact and your neurology being restored. And you have succeeded my expectation, which is thrilling.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Well, Jean, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story and hopefully giving some hope to some hopeless situations. And for all my listeners, even if you're not in Southern California, we do have an entire society full of amazing Blair doctors that want to help you. So if you are looking for maybe a different approach to your healthcare needs, specifically with fusion in your neck or disc degeneration, why don't you go to the website? It's www.blairchiropractic.com and you can locate a doctor, put in your zip code or put in a city, and it'll find the nearest doctor to you. My goal in life is to train up more doctors, and I'm always working at educating students and interns and going to colleges to train more chiropractors to do this work, so that there literally is a Blair chiropractor in every community of the world. If you're in Southern California, I would love to have an opportunity to talk with you. You can find me at wellconnectedchiro.com or you can Google Well Connected Chiropractic in Mission Viejo. You can also email me through my podcast, Get Your Head On Straight, or you can find me on Facebook, Instagram. You can call my office, wellconnectedchiro.com. There's a billion ways to find me. Thanks again, Jean, for being here and for sharing your incredible story. And I can't wait to see the good things are going to come because you've got your head on straight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm glad I finally could get this done.
Me too. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. I hope that you are fascinated with her story and make sure you check out the blog and the associated pictures with the blog because her legitimate live x-ray is going to be posted up so you can see what I saw the first day that I met her. All right. Have a great day, guys. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Get Your Head On Straight with Dr. Elizabeth Hafer. Visit wellconnectedchiro.com for more details from the show blog post and to learn what Blair Upper Cervical Chiropractic can do for you. To learn more about Dr. Hafer and her practice, you can find her at Well Connected Chiropractic in Mission Viejo, California by visiting wellconnectedchiro.com for more information.